That's the moment the Party for Socialism and Liberation says was inaudible in the critical incident video showing the police shooting that killed Adam Sykes.
Today we tell Mike Brown and the ruling class that we won't be divided. We've seen these tricks before. Immigrants are not dangerous. Capitalism is.
On today's episode of Naptown People's Radio, we get to hear from Veronika Williams and Keanda Young, who are loved ones of Jamar and Lamonte Thomas. So we have previously covered the atrocity that happened to Jamar and Lamonte Thomas on March 7th during a Naptown breakdown, in which, Jamar and Lamonte, they attempted to stop a man from going on a killing spree. But instead of, coming out as heroes, the heroes that they are, and being recognized by, city officials, by the cops, they instead, Jamar lost his life and Lamonte is currently in jail. And Veronika and Keanda, they had a press conference here at the Indian Liberation Center. And afterwards, they were able to sit down with one of our comrades, Stephen Lane. And they shared their family side of the story, which is very different from IMPD. Shocker. And I think it will be really great and eye-opening for a lot of people to hear their story, and hear, who Jamar and Lamonte are as human beings, as people. And also, the narrative just doesn't make sense. Which again is not shocking, but because IMPD rarely ever makes sense. All they do is lie. But I think it'll be really good for listeners to hear and to share, to talk about what has happened to this family and figure out how can we rally around them? How can we support them? But before we hear from the Thomas family, let's hear from Derek and the Naptown Breakdown. So what's on deck this week, comrade?
All right. Well, a couple of things. One surprisingly has hit the mainstream news. Indy Star has done an article on it, but this past Saturday, there was an anti-ICE demonstration. As you know, PSL was one of the organizers of it. And one of the leading organizers, Noah Leininger, was leading chants around 5 p.m. They were marching down the sidewalk, right? And there was clearly room for people to pass. The streets were closed, so people could also walk in the streets. And as they were about to cross State Street, an unidentified man grabbed Noah from behind and stole his microphone. He turned around and realized it was a cop. And so as soon as he did that, Noah is very self-composed and aware of his rights, And so he said, "I need your 5-digit ID number," to which the officer replied, "F you." And then City County Councilor Jesse Brown was in the vicinity and, intervened, identified himself and his position and said, and asked actually if the officer was, quote, refusing to identify himself. And he got the same reply, right? "F you. I don't have to identify myself." And so Brown was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to call Chief Terry." And the cop said, "I don't care if you call the mayor." Right. And meanwhile,
oh my God, what an idiot. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's true. I mean, Jesus. And so meanwhile, there's 10 more cops surrounding them, right?
Yeah.
And this is not a large group of people. At least it's much smaller than the crowds that are going to the actual, event.
Yeah.
And so eventually 2 sergeants walk over to intervene, and Gary Francis Haddon, a patrol officer who made over $110K, the last data that we have is in 2024, was eventually compelled to comply with the law and identify himself and give his badge number, 5-digit ID number. And so, then Noah was like to the sergeants, is this police presence, like, which is disproportionate, really necessary. And so the sergeants got them to kind of like back up a little bit. And basically, you know, he was like, all right, cool, I'm just going to go back to my protests, right? And start marching. And eventually, though, the sergeants came up to Noah and asked if he wanted to file a formal complaint. This was about 2 minutes later. And Noah said, quote, I said, your officer grabbed me rudely and insolently. Everything that he did constituted battery. It needs to be forwarded to Ryan Mears' office, he said. Of course, Noah then, you know, went on. I mean, he's got a decade of experience organizing against the cops also in the city. And he told the cops, you know, I'm sure this is not going to go anywhere. You know, I have no faith in this resulting in any discipline for this guy, but sure, you know, I'll try. And it was funny because as they were asking, as they were filling out the form, they would ask him for like his phone number. And he was like, I don't need to give you that. And they were like, well, there's a space on here for it.
Okay.
So they don't even know, you know, about their own forms, basically.
Oh my God.
And so, you know, and the other thing is like Haddon, this cop, tried to tell Noah that they needed a permit, which is not true.
No.
And I mean, basically, like this whole thing was just, you know, unnecessary, but it was obviously, you know, an attempt to disrupt a peaceful, lawful assembly, right? Of anti-ICE protesters. And speaking of, I mean, there's a good reason to protest ICE, right? Because recently we have had a second confirmed death of an ICE detainee at Miami Correctional Facility. Mm-hmm. Tan Van Bui, a 55-year-old Vietnamese man who was detained by ICE, died in custody at the Miami Correctional Facility, aka the Speedway Slammer. Staff say they found him unresponsive on April 1st, and he was pronounced dead at 6:10 p.m. The cause of death remains under investigation. According to the Indianapolis Star, Bui was legally in the country, legally entered, you know, in 1990 during the Ameri-Asian Homecoming Act, and then, but he, you know, it made him eligible for lawful permanent residency. But regardless, you know, he had a right to be here. Everybody has a right to be here. We're not going to get caught up in all that stuff. This is the second immigrant detainee to die there since they started using the prison as a detention center. And there is some, you know, lawmakers are kind of making a big thing about it. Well, I wouldn't say a big thing about it, but this was, you know, precisely because the previous death, the Cambodian national, right, he was found unresponsive in his cell. Yeah. The one who died of quote unquote natural causes, you know. And then, you know, we had recently Danny Ortiz on the show, and he informed me a couple of days ago that another person in their like mid 40s, maybe early 50s, was, you know, he saw him being transported. He was clearly dead. And as they were walking by, they were just like, oh, yeah, natural causes. And he was like, it didn't seem right to him. So there's other deaths that are obviously going unreported in that facility.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it needs to be shut down.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that you said like second confirmed, right? Because who knows how many detainees have actually, I'm going to say, been killed, because like these are such like weird circumstances that these men, because I think it's only men at the Speedway Slammer, but that these men have died, you know, and it's. And I feel like there was actually a report that came out probably from the Indy Star not that long ago about the amount of like overdoses that have come out of the Speedway Slammer, which is very interesting because you can't, if you go visit someone at Miami Correctional Facility, like if you visit a loved one, you cannot touch them, right? Yeah. And so it's like, how are the drugs getting in here?
Yeah, and you're like basically subjected to the same, you know, searches that the inmates are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's like there's just I mean, obviously it's the judicial system, which is like shady as heck anyway, but like there's so much shadiness that is happening at the Speedway Slammer, and I'm every time I hear something about them, I'm just like sickened and like literally to my stomach about the atrocities that are happening within there. I mean, shout out to Danny for like being a revolutionary and continuing to like talk about, you know, his own experiences and like what he's seeing in general, just like because we need that, right?
Yeah.
Like we need to know what in the world is going on in there, because we're not going to get a straight answer from the cops, from the COs. I mean, just like the cop who like went up to Noah, right? Like somebody like asked you to identify yourself, which like you are a public servant. Like,
Gary Francis Haddon, a patrol officer. Gary Francis Haddon.
A patrol officer who makes
over more
double what I make.
Yeah, for real.
over double
same.
what I make, which is insane. And you can't even identify yourself, right? Like this is, and you like
refuse to. It's like part of your, basically part of your job.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, like I don't need to. I mean, Noah knows this stuff like the back of his hand. It's like wild. Of all the comrades to go up to, of all the comrades to go up to and mess with, you pick Noah Leininger. Wild choice. Look at God.
I mean, they thought he was a lawyer until like,
yeah.
I don't know, for like the first 5 years we're in this city.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they were like, wait, you're not a lawyer? And he was like, no, I just am, you know, he's a school teacher.
Yeah.
And he reads and he studies and, you know, and we know his like salary, for example, thanks to maskoff12.com.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. Sure do.
Yeah. And the thing, I will say one more thing about the prisons. It's like, there's no place that's shrouded in more secrecy.
Yeah.
I mean, you
absolutely.
think about Guantanamo Bay. I mean, basically that's every single prison. You know, they do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And unless they, you know, because they can straight up put on lockdown and restrict the journalists, the media. We have evidence of them preventing Angela Ganote of Fox 59 from, you know, visiting Vernon T. Bateman when he was incarcerated. Even Barry Schick, who's a lawyer, they denied. So they have basically like they have control over themselves, and that's the nature of the state. Right.
Yeah.
The state is accountable to itself, not to the people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm learning a lot about Unigov right now. And I'm just like, it's fascinating the ways that like they make sure that they take care of themselves and that they are not held accountable by us, by the people who like pay their salaries, just like, you know, the people that they're supposed to be protecting and serving and taking care of.
And whose time they waste, you know, with all these like, you know, campaigns and whatnot. And, you know, they go ahead and do what they want anyways. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
E.g. Ron Gibson. Right. I mean.
Yeah. It's a really good example. Not listening to his constituents. As
he walked out, you know, after the vote.
Yeah.
He was just waving like, ha, ha.
Yeah.
You know,
you're
like,
literally mocking the people who got you your job.
Yeah. And, you know, predominantly black.
Yep.
Like,
yeah. Look, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So, like.
That's definitely true.
Oh, man. I mean, but I feel like, you know, with all of this, I was driving on my way here. My kids go to school not too far from here. And so when I was on my way here, there was, somebody graffitied this gas station. But it says like, the rich are killing us. And I was like, and it's in like the Brookside neighborhood, this gas station, which like, if you know anything about the city, if you know anything about Brookside, Brookside is very much so like working class neighborhood. You know, people in Brookside are like amazing and dope and like very community oriented, but you know, don't have a lot of money. And so I'm like, in Brookside, y'all talking about the rich are killing us? I was like, the people are here.
Yeah.
The people are sick and tired and fed up. And I'm here for it. I'm always going to be here for it. The people like gaining that consciousness and like, it's honestly like a very rewarding and beautiful thing to see that like the people are like, what is going on here? And like, and literally graffitiing it so like everybody else can think about it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that they they spontaneously know what's going on.
Yeah.
And, it won't be, it's clear they're preparing. They know this is happening, the state, that's why they're, building more prisons in the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
Right. That's why
we talked about that.
They're testing ICE. And so the key thing is, as we always say, like, we're not outnumbered, we're just out organized. And so, whenever that spontaneous uprising emerges, that's when organization becomes so decisive, because if you wait until the uprising, then we've already, we've lost before we've even, had a chance to fight. Yeah. So, that's why we are here on the PSL, and we encourage people to join, not just organizations. You should join organizations, but, the PSL or organizations dedicated to making a new society.
Absolutely. Yeah. And study, read up, or listen. If you're not really a reader, that's why we have That's why we have our podcast. There's so many podcasts out there that you should check out as well, that are about revolution and preparing and education, so that we can be better prepared for. I hate that I can't cuss on here. So that we can be better prepared for what is to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we will be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, all right. So that is it for the Naptown Breakdown. We will be right back with Veronika and Keanda.
Hi, my name is Jakari. I'm an organizer with the Liberation Center, here to tell you about the Indie Liberation Store, our city's one-stop shop for organizers and activists. We got hundreds of books, arts, prints, embroideries, and more on key subjects like history, philosophy, theory, and sociology, even children's books, all of which are focused on events and the movements of the oppressed today. We just restocked Hood Feminism, Unequal by Design, and the Black Belt Thesis. So come through, check out our growing selection of progressive art prints, buttons, shirts, and more.
All right, and this is Stephen Lane on Naptown People's Radio. Today's date is Thursday, April 2nd. We just wrapped up a press conference at the Indianapolis Liberation Center with Veronika and Keanda, who are related to Jamar Thomas, who I remember hearing about this story. I remember reading it in the news that there was a robbery downtown. The article came out March 7th, where an attempted robbery downtown, where the robber was shot, and the police were there to save the day and protect the robber, or the victim in this situation. The victim had a gun. The robbers somehow did not. I got a call on Monday from Veronika, who was here with us in the studio, and she told me that what we all read in that news report was not actually what happened. So, Veronika, can you give us a rundown of what you heard happened that night on March 7th?
Yes. What I heard happened that night was first that my child's father was murdered. That's what I heard happened that night. A genuine angel and leader was taken from this world. That's what I heard that night of what happened. What I know is he was going to get food, and as he waited for his food, he was shot. Can I say what went through my mind would be, I really want to know the truth, because this doesn't make any sense. This is just not him. That's definitely what went through my mind. I heard, as the news said, Jamar had a double red cup, slang for lean cough syrup. He was hanging out in an alley smoking a cigarette. He somehow went and grabbed a gun from the so-called victim's waist. As he was reaching for the gun, the victim, supposedly victim, felt so threatened that he just shot. because he was grabbing his gun. And none of it makes sense to the character of the man that I know, to the statements that made sense. Jamar does not smoke cigarettes. Jamar does not do lean. He's never done it ever. He's non-confrontational. He will walk away from the confrontation before he will even engage in any kind of fighting or any kind of activity, as far as physical goes. Now, he's not going to let someone run over him. That's for sure.
Right.
You know, but if he can maneuver himself, it's his energy. It was not that man. And the man that they really painted it out, it was almost like, oh my goodness, not only are they now making it like that with him, but what I know of Lamonte, I've never known none of that either. To be true for him. And now he's downtown and got all these charges because he held a man there that shot his uncle. So I'm trying to process. I'm trying to digest. I'm hearing. I'm knowing that it's just not right. And this is just what they're putting on there. And then the news comes on. My daughter sees it. She hears them say all these things about her father. Instantly, she breaks down and what do you expect? She instantly breaks down and she can't believe that this is the narrative that they're even saying about him. She knows him to be just as loving, just as dependable, and an upright man here in society. He's always taught her, to be an upright and stand-up woman, so he lived by that. You literally cannot take that away from him. And anyone that knows him knows that he's not here to hurt anyone. You're going to have to make him fight if that's what you want to do. Not saying he won't. Not saying he wouldn't. But he's not going to just walk up to you, slap nothing out your hand, slap you or anything. He had too much respect for himself as a man. So he removed himself before he would even start any kind of altercations. He's never been known for any violence. I've never known him to have that in his body or bone, so it was very, very hurtful. So what I learned that night was they took a leader, they took a father, they took a man who worked hard to be a abiding citizen, a law-abiding citizen that did not want to rob, kill, steal, and destroy. He was the total opposite. Mm-hmm. And he was taken from us and way too soon. He did not deserve to go in order to go like that.
And what's interesting is when I saw that article, I basically just saw the headline. Like, it was a robbery. It was 2 suspects one was shot, one was taken into police custody. And the person with the gun looked like it was a self-defense case. So it looked like he was defending himself. And then I just scrolled past the article, and Veronika, you really told me, no, actually go read these articles. And then when you read them, it really doesn't make any sense because the shooter was apparently walking down Pennsylvania Street at 2 a.m. in the morning when he sees someone in the alley. And he says, this man in the alley looked like he was drinking, lean, and got up and he was like, are you good? No, are you good? And then it looked like they were getting ready to fight until the victim, I guess, the shooter, the one with the gun, lifts up his shirt and flashes the gun. And then was continuing walking down the street because that person in the alley supposedly backed off. And then out of nowhere, Jamar and Lamonte Thomas supposedly are trying to rob him. And then Jamar gets shot in the abdomen, and Lamonte is found on top of the shooter, the victim in this scenario, supposedly, when the police arrive. And what doesn't make sense to me is that if you're robbing somebody, why would you stay there so long when it looks like it was a failed robbery when someone's getting shot? So it just didn't add up. So, and we got Keanda here as well, who is Jamar's fiance. to speak about what they were doing the day before the shooting, and to also talk about more about Jamar. If you want to go ahead, Keanda.
Yes. Hello. So we were in Vegas for a whole week. We left and went to Vegas on Sunday. I believe that was March 1st. We were gone. We enjoyed Vegas. We spent time. We got to mentally connect, without no kids around, no phones, no nothing. We really got to enjoy each other's time. So when we got, and Jamar wanted to be spontaneous. He wanted us to get married in Vegas, but I was like, no, we can just wait. Kind of scared. He
called your bluff. He let's go then. What you talking?
So we end up just coming back home. We got back home about 7:26 on the 6th, I believe. And we were chilling, relaxing. He said we separated because we were already together for, a whole week. So we separated a little bit so I can get my kids situated, unpack my clothes. He went home to unpack. And, last time I was speaking to him was like at 8:26 p.m. that night that it happened. So the next day, I got a call that he was shot. And I'm calling all around hospitals, but of course they're not going to tell you anything. So I had to go in person. I ended up finding where he was at. And found him, went in there, seen him. Jamar's vitals were stable the whole time. He was in a medically induced coma, but it was nothing to where, he was always alert. They had to put him in that because he kept trying to take the incubation tube or something out his throat. So, they had to sedate him. But if I talk to Jamar and, tell him squeeze my hand, he'd squeeze my hand. He was fine. After they removed the tube, I think they removed the tube out that Tuesday. I got to speak with Jamar. We set up, they got him out the bed. He walked. He sat up in a chair for 3 hours. We sat there and talked for 3 hours that day. He was fine. Like, no fevers the whole time. There was nothing wrong. And I know things can change, but considering how good he was doing even after he had got shot and they did surgery and went in and closed him up and, he was still doing fine. Like there was no signs of, anything. And I talked to him and, I'm asking him like, babe, what's happening? What happened? Like, what went wrong? Like, he said, I don't know why he shot me. I don't know. He was like, he was in Wingstop ordering food. He stepped outside. The guy was drunk. He was walking past him. And as he was walking past, he was saying, I'll shoot anybody. I'll shoot any MF for tonight. I'll shoot anybody. And he was like, then he shot him. So, but that's all we really kind of got to talk about. Cause I had to leave. And when I did return to the hospital that night, unfortunately I was unable to get back into the room because they said circumstances have changed. They never told me, he was placed under arrest or anything like that. They just said circumstances has changed and he cannot have no visitors or, nobody can see him. So I looked on my case because there's no other reason. I've been coming up here for almost a week straight.
Mm-hmm.
There shouldn't have been no reason why, things have changed. No one's been here to speak with him. I've been here literally every day. Not one officer came and talked to him, seeing how he was doing or anything. So when I got there, they was like, unfortunately, circumstances have changed. I checked my case, and that's when I realized he had a warrant. So, I'm trying to figure out why he has a warrant, and they know where he is the whole time. Right, he's in the hospital.
Like, you took him to the hospital. How you looking for him?
I was confused on why, we requested for him to have a patient advocate before I left that day. So he should have been able to have a patient advocate and someone to be able to talk for him. And, they failed him on that. I feel like once Jamar, they placed him in custody, Eskenazi, mistreated him. I believe they stopped caring for him. And, I just can't wait, to see and, get all the evidence that we need to prove they were very negligent. And he didn't deserve to be in that hospital by himself. He, without the right for a phone call. People in jail have phone calls all the time.
All the time.
You can search. I searched his name in the data, Marion County Jail inmate search. His name was never in the system as he was locked up. Mm-hmm. So there should have been no reason that his family was unable to see him at that hospital.
That man died in that bed by himself. Mm-hmm. And was just left there like he had nobody to love him. And he has many individuals, many to love him. That's right. He should never have been treated that way, left that way. And I personally do believe that when they put him under the custody and a warrant, that care could have been dropped, just like it is that we know of inside the system, inside of the jails. I believe that when he went into police custody, the care he was given deceased. When she left out and he was given that, and he was already marked as a robber. He's already marked as he's tried to rob and hurt someone tonight. I truly believe that he was treated that way. And that's not who he is. That wasn't his story. I think that it's truly messed up. Nobody came in to even question him. Now, you guys follow everything else. You mean to tell me that you didn't know when he woke up? I'm sure you did. And no one came to ask questions to verify his side, what happened to him as he seen a bullet coming towards him, or he seen the barrel of that gun and the fire that comes when it's pulled. That's traumatizing. That's something you would want to know. And normally when anyone comes out of a coma, some things have happened. That's when they go ask the questions. So it just blows my mind that this victim that shot Jamar was able to go in, speak his side, be released, go home, live life, drunken, ignorant, and belligerent. And never once came and gave the decency to ask Jamar, hey man, you okay? What happened to you? At the end of the day, even if you thought he was still a robber, are we still not supposed to have respect for our human and our neighbors?
Right.
As a person, I want to know how you're doing. If you're a robber, does that mean you don't deserve good care?
Right.
If you're a robber, do you not deserve dignity? He
wasn't convicted of robbery.
And
he never went through a trial.
He was never convicted. And isn't it innocent until proven guilty?
That's right.
And he had no voice. They gave him no voice. They took his voice, and that man took his life.
And this isn't the first time that we've heard about abuse happening at Eskenazi Hospital. If listeners remember back in 2023, 2024, the case of Jada Traynor, who went to Eskenazi Hospital reporting that she was having trouble breathing. The nurse was really rude to her, so she requested a patient advocate, and instead they sent the police to brutalize her and then try to charge her with resisting arrest, which she did win in the court system, thanks to the advocacy of the Indianapolis Liberation Center and the surrounding community that supported Jada Traynor. And the IMPD also fumbled this case pretty bad. You read the police report, they're talking to a lot of people who are admitting to being drunk and inebriated. I mean, it's Saturday night, 2 a.m. in downtown Indianapolis. So these people are really saying really conflicting things. No one really saw what happened.
No one saw what happened. Someone said they ran and then said, hey, I'm asking the other people out there, is he winning? Like, what? Oh, you heard a shot and then you didn't see what happened? So how do we have victims? How do we say it was a robbery? How are we saying anything? You know, of course, an angle showing that Lamonte's on top of this man. This is at the end of the altercation. He stayed on him until the police came. So yes, you were going to see him on top of this man. Jamar shot in the abdomen. He can't get up and move. Yes, you're going to see him laying in the street. So when you come up and you have this ending to a situation, where's the beginning? Let's see that man get out of his car. Let's see him deliberately walk over. Let's see him say, hey, it's a stick up, put your hands up. But neither one of these men had a weapon. They never had the man's belongings in their possession. I want to see why would they reach for his waistband? It wouldn't just be, hey, let me walk up, man, and let me just take your gun. Why do I want your gun? If I was coming to rob you, I got my own gun. Mm-hmm. And if either one of them wanted to knock him out, all it take was for one to really hit him good. I mean, they're big guys. But it would make sense to me that if you're already upset and you're saying what you're saying and you're walking and Jamar's walking and Lamont's walking behind him, Jamar's car is parked right up at the intersection. Like just running, lingering right here at the aisle, like right at the intersection. Car tail lights still on. How in the world does someone say, you know what, I'm just going to set this up and then I'm going to go rob this man? But I work a good job. I got my own home. I got a whole family I'm living for. But I'm just going to go order me some food. I'm going to
give them my name.
I'm using my real name, my government name. I use my car, my government car outside, left it showing like it was the runaway victim, like it was the runaway car. It's still running. So where was I going? I wasn't trying to hide anything. I had no mask on my face or anything. Like I'm not, like there's no bandana saying I'm thugging, I'm gang banging. Like if anything, and he doesn't smoke cigarettes, but if I was sitting in an alley smoking my cigarette, what made you think I wanted to hurt you or rob you?
And why would he approach a man in the alley?
And guess what the question was, guess what the statement was that was said was, hey man, everything okay? Does that sound like a damn robber?
Oh.
Hey,
it seems like this white man. Mm-hmm. Let's be real.
Let's be real. This white man.
It was a white man. See somebody in the alley and is just staring at him. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's staring at me, where I'm just sitting down, like, what's going on? Are you? Do we know each other?
Are you okay? Yeah,
right.
Like, are you okay? So if you say this to somebody and they say it back to you, they didn't say, hey, give me your stuff. This is a stick up. I'm robbing you. That's not something anybody would say. Like nothing about it is so contradicting. It's sickening. What did they just take the gun out of his waistline? And then like, that's the scuffle. Was the scuffle he was taken from the shoulders and taken down? Like, how is it that he's with a group of people, but nobody just seen anything?
And they're not helping.
And they're not helping.
He's being robbed. They're not helping their friend.
They're not helping.
Not being robbed.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense.
Robbers with no gun.
Robbers with no gun.
Yeah. And it seemed like they talked to the supposed victim's group of friends who are just defending him. One girl said in the police report, I just don't want him to go to jail because it was quote unquote self-defense. But so the IMPD parroted that lie. They parroted that lie in the police report and they gave that over to the press and the press printed that. And that's what the whole city got to see. That was their introduction to Jamar and Lamonte Thomas.
Absolutely.
And it's just so egregious that, I want to challenge the press, like go deeper than besides just using the police reports. Talk to the families of the victims, of everybody involved, get all the angles. So I want to, since the IMPD is spreading a lot of lies about these two black men, they come up and see a black man on top of a white man and they assume, just like in that movie Get Out. We talked about that the other day at the end of the movie where you have the black protagonist defending himself from a white woman and he's on top of her when the police car pulled up. And everybody in the theater gasped because we knew what that meant for him, that it was going to look bad for him, even though he was actually the one defending himself. And I want to give you some information about the officers that responded that night because their names are listed in the police report. And we have this resource developed here at the Indianapolis Liberation Center by one of our members. It's called maskoff12.com. What it does is it compiles use of force data on IMPD officers, and it really shows who these officers really are. So let me read you some of their records. Since they want to spread lies about these two Black men, let's actually read who these people really are. Officer Ryan Bauer-Sox was on the scene and listed in the report. On Maskoff 12, it lists him as using force on citizens 112 times that have been documented. 74% of those have been against Black people. In a city, remind you, that is only 29% Black. Officer Brian Rigby has 126 use of force incidents with 66% against Black people. And I also want to throw this in there, 47% against women. Detective Keith Ortega, 65 use of force incidences, 78% against Black people. Detective Ronald Clayton, 30 documented use of force cases, 76% of the time against Black people. So when you look at their records, you can really see how they came to that conclusion because they already see Black people as a threat.
Stereotyped, for sure.
Yep.
I believe that Lamonte and Jamar were definitely stereotypes from the shooter, from the very beginning. I believe that it starts from maybe him not even, is it not liking us? Like liking Black people? Like, I don't know what would make you just think like, because a man is sitting in the alley and he's looking at you, what makes him dangerous? Because he's looking at you, because you don't like it. We get looks all the time that we don't necessarily like. I mean, that's at work. That's anywhere. People give us nasty mugs, especially working in customer service. Does that mean that person's having a bad day? What's going on their mind? Does that mean that he's looking at you funny? Does that mean he wants to rob you because his eyes are piercing to you? I just felt like, and then the statement was also made, yeah, when we came by, he was looking at the girls. And I'm just like, okay, so did that stroke your ego because he was looking at the girls? And who was looking at the girls? It's just not clear who was looking at the girls. But that triggered you?
And this all stems from a man in the alley who is still not
A
questioned
mystery.
or listed in his paperwork.
Yep.
Nobody can identify this man in the alley. The victim, so-called victim, says that he don't know if Lamonte and Jamar was even kin to the dude in the alley. You know, he couldn't recognize. But then at the same time, after the altercation, he's saying that he sees the dude in the alley that's telling Lamonte to grab his gun. But then you don't remember what he looks like. So do you know who this dude in the alley is or do you not? It's just like he made up something just so, and they helped him coerce
that, yeah.
this to be able to become self-defense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like the robbery was never mentioned by any of the witnesses, it was mentioned by a detective.
Yes.
A detective said so, asked one of the witnesses.
Not even the shooter.
Yeah, not even the shooter. Asked a witness. So do you think they were going to beat him up or rob him?
Yep.
And the witness said, absolutely. But absolutely to what?
Which
You know,
one?
he
To
never
which
clarified. He just assumed robbery and that's what he went with.
And then he tailored the whole narrative to
Yep.
fit what he wanted it to. And it's really sad because it makes me feel like they tried to get two birds with one stone with these men, because here in the state of Indiana, if you have robbery and somebody's hurt, both parties get that, regardless. If I say I'm the getaway driver and she goes in to rob somebody and she hurts somebody while she's in there, I still get the same charges as she does, even if I wasn't inside if someone's hurt. So I feel like they definitely tried to do an open, closed case. Let's pin this here, and that's where it's going to sit. Well, unfortunately, that's not where it's going to sit, because that's not who they were. That's not who Jamar is. That's not what was painted. It wasn't fair for him. And he lost his life in the middle of this egotistical, intimidated, from this intimidated person. And we're trying to understand, is it because they were walking behind you that made you uncomfortable because you were just talking mess to the man in the alley? Like, what was it that triggered or clicked in his mind that just made him feel like they were such the enemy that you needed to pull your gun out? There are altercations. We are adults. We're going to agree to disagree. That does not make it okay because I disagree with you. to just pull out my gun and shoot you because I don't like you or I don't like what you said or I'm already mad right now. That would be trying to show off in front of people. That's normally what that is. And you have a group of people. You have this woman right here, you know, that's with you. Like, are you trying to show off? You want to show your masculinity? You flashed a gun.
A group of people he just met that night, too.
You just met that night, yeah. So,
and they said that they had already met them at Bakersfield. So you went, and then then he, the victim, quotation air marks, said that they were going to a bar. So where are you going with a bar?
Where are you coming from? Or going to a bar with a pistol on you already?
You can't get in no bar. You can't get in nowhere downtown. Not even a restaurant.
Not even a restaurant.
With a gun.
Right.
At 2 a.m.
Right.
Then one of the victims was told the officer that he didn't have a gun or, you know, he didn't show any gun. But at the same time, he said that he lifted up his waistband and showed it.
He did.
So how didn't you know he had a gun? It's just everything is so contradicting. It's just not making sense. The witnesses, their statements are not credible. They were drunk.
Yeah. And didn't see anything, but came back to say exactly what they felt like that it was. And it's just not credible. Like she said, it's just not a credible witness. You guys are inebriated. No one's seen it. Right. Everyone, it's just this fight. Wait, who started? What happened? And that's why we asked for the video footage. The video footage would have shown from the time Jamar got out the car and Lamonte got out the car to the time he was laying in front of his car on the ground at that intersection. And it's so many blank spots to this story, but there's so many cameras that cover all spots downtown, all eyes downtown. How don't we have that? 9 times out of 10, if they have actual footage of somebody going up and doing a robbery or a stick up, they show exactly that.
Immediately on the news.
Immediately. They've never shown us anything leading up to this besides the very end. Yeah. The very end screenshots. You can tell they're like a street, like from the street. So
it's from someone's camera.
Yes. Yeah. For sure. Because if it was from the camera, then go and show the walking, go on and show the movement of this.
Right. And who said they didn't edit their camera to alter
just to show the end? And I'm sure they did. They only wanted to capture the end. They only wanted to capture to make it look like, oh, they're on him. I feel like that they really thought to put this together, like she said, to get him off. Like, unfortunately, they look like that's a lookout for each other, you know?
And it really fits into IMPD's racist narrative that they wanted to build. And, you know, to say that, like, if I went downtown and just, like, shot somebody, and I can just claim self-defense.
Right.
And I would walk and maybe that person would go to jail.
Right.
Not even that.
That doesn't make any sense.
You're claiming self-defense where 2 live rounds were found.
Right.
Self-defense is 1 shot.
Yes.
So where did the second one come from?
And how come no one is reporting to say there was a second one besides the police and the news? The witnesses aren't saying I heard 2 shots.
Right.
Like there's so many different stories of a cover up or just trying to just like that young lady said, I just don't want him to go to jail for murder. It was self-defense. No, it was murder.
Yeah.
It was murder.
That's right.
He murdered.
And that's exactly why she said that.
Yeah.
Because
she knew he was wrong.
Yep. And can you talk more about the charges that were put on Jamar and Lamonte?
Absolutely. They both had the robbery. They both were facing confinement, strangulation, and bodily injury.
Battery resulting in bodily injury.
They ended in bodily injury. Now, after we were able to bring light to it and say, hey, this wasn't the correct narrative, they actually had murder out there as well. Okay. And that was just lingering over. Then mysteriously, the murder is dismissed. And they're speaking of expungements and, you know, trying to just remove these things off. And so we're like, well, wait a minute. Because this man died for this. So instead of you producing the evidence, now you're just like, you know what, we're going to sweep this under the rug and take the murder off. You guys be okay with that because there's no murder. Absolutely not. We want justice and he needs to go to jail for murder, for killing Jamar like that, just in the street. He's no... Animals get more respect here than that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I feel like that the charges that they still have Lamonte with of the confinement, robbery is still there. Confinement, robbery, strangulation, and the battery, imminent bodily harm, injury, harm. Yeah, I feel like that's a smack in the face. You are walking, you are protecting. I definitely am not going to let someone shoot you. I'm with you. We're family.
Right.
And I'm just going to be like, you know what? Oh, he went that way. If I can, he put his life at risk to make sure that he kept that man down.
Yeah. And nobody else got shot
Nobody
that
else
night.
did that.
Thank God.
Nobody else went up and got the gun. Nobody else was shot, thankfully. And could have been thanks to Lamonte. But he's being looked at like he's this brutal man. He's here attacking people and, going to commit a robbery. Now, my thing is, why do we still keep seeing this robbery? No one said it was a robbery. No one threw their hands up like it was a robbery. No one asked for no one's possessions. There was no possessions found on neither one of those men. Neither one of them. Robbery should never even be there. Mm-hmm. Not a victim said robbery. Not the shooter said robbery. Not Jamar said a robbery. Not Lamonte said a robbery. All the group of people that they swear were there to see everything. No one stated a robbery. But the one thing that the victim did state was she heard somebody say, "I'll kill that motherfucker." So if that's what you heard, who had the gun? Why would someone without a gun say, "I'll kill all you motherfuckers"? Why would anybody say that? That doesn't have a weapon. They have no weapons. Lamonte took the gun and threw the gun.
What robber gonna do that?
Doesn't make sense.
Right. And so Lamonte is languishing, is the only way I can think about it, at the Marion County Jail. I've been there. I've been to the ICE detention pods. It's not a place where you want to be, and not a place where innocent men belong. And the police, I don't think, have provided enough evidence to even keep him there. And he needs to, I remember we released the press release on Monday. So Fox 59 did do a story based off the press release, creating that doubt or, getting the family's truth out there about who Jamar and Lamonte are as people. And immediately there were some changes to the charges and the bail for Lamonte. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, at first when this first happened, his bond was set at $12,000 cash. After this article, he had a bond hearing. It was already scheduled, but they did reduce his bond to a $60,000 surety bond. So pay $6,000 to get out. But they still have him incarcerated. Won't at least let him out on pretrial release. Mm-hmm. He has nothing that say he will run or anything like that for him to not be able to be let out on pretrial release. Also, it was kind of funny how they didn't have this warrant on Jamar even when he passed away. It was still on there until the next day after we start bringing light. Then after that, the warrant disappeared the next day. Yep. All his charges started to say dismissed, and then they had order to expunge. No, why are we expunging now? Yeah, let's open this up. Let's fight this case like how this case is supposed to be fought. Don't dismiss and expunge everything now. No.
And then they still leaving attempted robbery on him.
Yeah, they put in parentheses attempt to commit.
How do you where?
Right.
Where's the proof in this? There's no proof. But yet you're still leaving this on this man.
Yeah.
And then Lamonte is this man is still in jail facing robbery. All these charges. And once again, it goes back to me saying, in the state of Indiana, during a robbery, what happens to the other person if somebody's hurt? So now all of a sudden the murder just disappeared and we just going to expunge it and nobody did nothing? No.
That's because they don't want to give Monte the chance to actually fight and open this case, because when he wins his case, that means old boy is going to get charged for Jamar's murder.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we want that. Yeah, we want that. Absolutely. He should be held accountable.
Absolutely.
Them officers need to be held accountable.
Absolutely. I want to know how is the prosecutor letting any of this ride, and why are we making these real cases when this is not a case to be made, to be pointed out and put on someone?
Right.
Like,
in fact, the prosecutor should be protecting
Jamar and Lamonte.
Should be representing
I thought
them.
that's what we're supposed to have a system here.
Right.
We pay them our tax dollars to support us and protect us. I haven't seen it yet. In any situation or incident, unfortunately, where it comes to, we really need justice. Like, we're really being let down here. It's almost, we are ourselves to protect ourselves, and call you later for what? You're going to still make up what you want to? Are you still going to send us to jail when you know the truth about it? Do you create your own narrative because you don't want to get out of your car or walk the streets to do your own investigation? You feel like, oh, I already know how you are. Oh, I already know you.
Right.
Based off the color of my skin or where I live. Like, that's horrible that we are here right here in this time and day and age. It's 2026 already. Mm-hmm. So if we don't do something about it and stand for us, who will?
That's right.
Yeah.
Stand together.
We stand
as the
together.
people.
Yeah.
And IMPD purports like an 80% crime clearance rate. And it really makes you question like how credible
is that? Is that? When I know for a fact there's now a killer, a murderer on the loose walking around, and how many other murderers have walked by this here. Yep. But now you have just based off of being white. Mm-hmm. You get the chance to just walk because you played victim and said things to make it like you were just this victim and in harm's way, and nothing adds up. But the detective that's supposed to be detecting, investigating lawfully, where's your work ethics? This is what you signed up and you said you were doing, and that this is what you display and you portray.
Honestly, you two have been better investigators than these detectives. Like,
well, thank you.
I'm sure
we should open up our own company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think both of you can figure out who this mystery man is before any IMPD
probably
officer
can. They give us a little more time if they don't want to stand up. We
not even that, y'all. There may not even be a mystery man.
Right. So true.
It may not
where's
even
the red
be
cup? Where's the red
man.
double cup?
Yeah.
Right. Did y'all find a cup of lean? Did y'all do any
Where's the red
that?
double cup of lean?
With all the cameras downtown,
I'm just saying,
there's
where
gotta
is
be some
somewhere,
video of this
something,
man.
Yes, right. This mystery alley man.
And this is really like messed with, getting benefits from Jamar's job because of this charge.
Yes.
So, and I know, Veronika, you have an 18-year-old daughter with Jamar. What has this been like for her as like the next of kin? She has to set up everything.
Yeah, it's torture. It's like, as a mother, you want to protect your child. As a father, you want to definitely, but as a mother, you want to protect your child. You hear these things. She's learning different things, lies that she's hearing about her father, the character that she knows him to be. She's processing, he passed away, right? Okay, he passed away. She's never going to see him again. She has to learn what that's like. She's graduating May 30th. She has prom that she's looking forward to. Then she is the next of kin. Now she has to plan her father's burial. Now she has to learn what that's like at 18. Almost like her best friend. She's trying to even process seeing him in a casket. Now we have to keep her from overloading and stressing about getting him in the casket because of his benefits being on hold. The job doesn't want to help do anything because of the narrative that's been painted about Jamar when none of these things are true. So now it leaves us to come up with he was our mate. He was our provider, like our mate for our children, our families. When I said keep our glue together, that's her man with her children. That's her life. They planning. They have things invested. That's me. That's my child. We're making sure that she's good. She is talking about going on off to college. Well, now we have prom. We have graduation. These are big milestones coming up in her life. She wants to have her independence and be a young woman as she possibly, she was stripped. It wasn't health. It wasn't something natural. He was murdered in the middle of a street and he was treated like garbage. And that's hurtful to hear from me. That's hurtful for Keanda. We are sitting here trying to figure out how we're going to eat, how we're going to sleep. This baby can only think about how her father was murdered. She has to plan his funeral. She's had to call coroner's offices. She's went to the funeral home to plan her father. She just cried. And as we sit to try to support her and comfort her, now she's told that we got to come up with the money to even pay for it, just because benefits are on hold. And that's sad because Jamar worked so hard to make sure this was something we never had to worry about. Mm-hmm. He wanted us to all be okay no matter what. Yeah. That was his dream for his family.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I love how y'all are just a close, tight unit.
Yeah.
And really fighting for this man's name and this man to reclaim his story and say this narrative that y'all are saying is not correct and it's wrong.
And put it right.
Yeah, and put it right. So I want to know from you, Keanda, what kind of plans did you and Jamar have that you were looking forward to?
We have actually started a business where we are doing mobile drug testing, fingerprint and DNA testing, background checks. So that was already started and in the works. So now I have to go do some retweaking and things because he's no longer here with me. We also had an appointment. Well, we were actually going to go to an auction, to see about getting some land. We always wanted, he always talked about building a family compound, having all his kids and everybody all along together. So we actually had an auction we were getting ready to go to look for some land. And, everything just got stripped away overnight. We wasn't even separated 24 hours. We just got back from Vegas, having fun. No phones. Like, we were just really focusing on each other and, our plans, our goals, what we had aligned, what we had to do when we get back. And now everything just changed in the blink of an eye.
Changed in the blink of an eye, and the IMPD, the prosecutor's office, Eskenazi Hospital, have all been a part of where these institutions are meant to help us and protect us and keep us safe. And that has not been the case, and it has changed the trajectory of these two women's lives and their children and the people they know and the people that Jamar knew and Lamonte knows. It's changed their lives forever. And here on Naptown People's Radio, we are always here to support the community here at the Indianapolis Liberation Center. If you or anyone you know is going through any kind of issue with the police or anything like that, you can always reach out to us at 317-721-3789 or email us at info@indyliberationcenter.org. I want to thank our two guests here today, Veronika and Keanda. Thank you all so much for your advocacy. Thank you for being the freedom fighters that you are and the amazing women that you are. And we're going to keep fighting until justice is served.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. If you do have issues or situations in dealings with any brutalities or police, please call out. This has been a very supportive environment and just feeling like that you could be heard. And we didn't know where to go, where to start. We just knew we had to find somewhere that would listen to us first because the narrative was painted to be so bad. We just knew we had to get our voices out. So thank you very, very much, Stephen, for helping us have a voice and feeling secure as we stand in our voice, because justice does need to be served. And a lot of individuals don't know, or if they do know about the Liberation Center, they may be scared to call, but don't be. Just call.
Yeah, give us a call. We're waiting. Yes. Phone lines are open.
Phone lines are open.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So today's Circle City shout out goes out to Sammy Penalosa. So Penalosa is the featured artist this month in the Fonseca Du Bois Gallery. And Sammy was born in LA, but has called Naptown his home for the past 20 years, since 2006. He has been painting since childhood and has had his work featured at the Harrison Center, obviously at the Fonseca Du Bois Gallery currently. But in addition to checking out his art here at the Liberation Center, you can check out his work throughout the city in the form of public murals. Now, Penalosa's art explores identity and the full spectrum of human emotion. Ultimately, Sammy's paintings teach us how to be vulnerable with one another and honest about what occupies our minds and what is tucked away in our hearts. You know, as a therapist who I work with quite a lot of men, actually, it's always so refreshing when men or those who are, you know, at least conditioned to be men or looked at as men, it's always so nice when they are wanting to like explore their feelings and express their feelings in a very healthy way and in a non-toxic way. And, you know, that is exactly what Penalosa is doing. You know, he is shattering the illusion of hiding his innermost thoughts, even when they are troubling to confront. You know, he fearlessly explores his own psyche. You know, Sammy often paints figures that appear a little nightmarish. I will say my children have seen Penalosa's art because they're always here at the center. And both of my boys have said it's definitely evoked a lot of feelings for them, for sure, which is the point, right? That is what art is supposed to do, is evoke thoughts and feelings, you know, all those beautiful things. You know, on the other end of the spectrum, Penalosa's work delves into the profound depths of love and light. And it is through this raw self-exploration and vulnerability that his art finds multiple ways to connect with the audience. So during a time of turmoil within the world, within the country, within our city, our state, you know, Sammy's work challenges us to stay in touch with our humanity, to feel, to confront the things that are hard to put into words and experience them intensely. He does such a great job at tapping into the emotional and imaginative depth that exists within all of us. You know, his work is a quiet affirmation. I see you and I too feel deeply. You know, I always say this, but you know, whatever your calling is, it can be revolutionary, you know, if you're willing to use it. You know, Sammy Penalosa's art invites us on a path of exploration and self-discovery. You know, and when an artist is in tune with their innermost depths, their work can take them and us to unimaginable heights. And, you know, and what is more revolutionary? Actually, there's lots of revolutionary things. Maybe I shouldn't do a hierarchy, but, you know, imagination is revolutionary. If we can imagine it, that's where it starts. You know, that is where it starts. If we can't imagine the future, joy, happiness, sadness, if we can't imagine, you know, what we want our lives to look like, then, you know, we can't get anywhere. So actually, yeah, it is a hierarchy. It starts with imagination. It starts there. So be sure to come down to the center and check out Sammy's work. You know, trust me when I say you will walk away with some kind of emotion being evoked. What will that be? I don't know, but it'll be something for sure. So shout out to Sammy Penalosa.
Yes, definitely second that. You know, I mean, per usual. Also, check out on our Instagram page, Indie Liberation Center, we have an excellent interview with Sammy in which my dog Felix makes a cameo. So be on the lookout for that. Before we wrap up, I want to call our listeners' attention to several events that we have coming up at the center this week. So as usual, we have our Circle City Sangha meetup, mindfulness meetup, which is Saturday between 9:30 and 11 a.m. And if you don't know, we haven't said on here in a little bit, but Circle City Sangha has been in operation since 2021. And they're a group of mindfulness practitioners in the Plum Village tradition of Buddhism. And that tradition was actually founded as part of the anti-colonial resistance during the U.S., French and then U.S. war against Vietnam. And we were really honored when they joined the center last year. It adds a really needed component to the programming that we do. And then, speaking of, the next day at 6 p.m., we have emancipatory motions, which we call Liberation Center Yoga on Sunday, 6 to 8 p.m. Be sure to go to the website, and there's a little form you can fill out to let the instructor know anything that they might need to know, regarding any limitations or restrictions or desires, because each week is really tailored to the group that shows up and how they're feeling that day. It's really, the instructor is really quite incredible. Also, we are really excited that Indie Hope Packages is teaming up with the Whispering Shelf to do a donation drive. So basically, anytime between now and April 25th, during business hours at either the Whispering Shelf or the center, you can drop off a list of items that we need, and they're listed on the website, but, Gatorade, vitamin water, electrolyte packets, unused stainless steel water bottles. We're focusing on hydration a lot, travel size shampoo and sunscreen, etc. And then Sunday, April 26th, will be at 1 p.m. We'll be assembling the packs and distributing them immediately afterwards at the center. You also will be entered into a raffle. There's 3 raffle prizes, each of which come with a free Whispering Shelf tote bag, Whispering Shelf merch, and free books. So definitely between now and Saturday, April 25th. Again, you can find the details on indieliberationcenter.org. Saturday at 1 p.m. is the final meeting of our Pedagogy of the Oppressed study group, which has been really great. And this is, whether you've come to any of them or not and read any of the book or not, I really encourage you to come to this one, because Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed, as much as it is talked about and referenced, is rarely read and engaged in depth. And it's mostly the first chapter or 2 that are covered. And when you read chapter 4, you learn the real reason why. Not only does it actually frame the specifics of Paulo Freire's conception and practice of education, but it also clarifies the overall project of which it is part. So please do come out to the Indie Liberation stores organizing that. It'll be here at the Indie Liberation Center, 1619 Prospect Street. That's this Saturday at 1 p.m. And then we're still doing the phone zap to end medical neglect at Miami Correctional Facility. If you think back to Naptown People's Breakdown, obviously that has not ended yet. And so we need to stay on them, let them know that we're watching them, and continue organizing. And that's it for this episode of Naptown People's Radio. If you found today's discussion useful, pass it on, leave a comment, and wait for our next episode to drop. Support us at support.naptownpeoplesradio.com and by shopping at the Indie Liberation store, either in person at the store or online at indieliberationstore.com. If you have a suggestion for the show, please email our producer at naptownpeoplesradio.com. The road ahead is long, but we walk it together. Study with your comrades, build with your community, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, but action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your host, Derek Ford, here with my comrade and co-host,
Danny Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
We say all power to the people. That means that we are our own liberators. We don't depend on nobody else. We depend on ourselves. And we take responsibility for ourselves. And therefore, we step up for our organization. Those that have proven by their actions and their practice that they represent for us. All power to the people and peace.
Collaboration. We act as if there's a scarcity of rights. If gay people get rights, women can't have rights. But that's not true. A victory for one is a victory for all. At the end of the same, you know? And
you talk about people being fearless in the face of whoever there is. They don't care. To the Liberation Center, I would say, this is what we need.